Good morning, traders. Today is Wednesday, January 5th. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. Okay, well, what did the market do in the overnight last night? Well, it looks like we just kind of balanced around inside the lower end of yesterday's range. Yesterday's range was a look above and fail of a larger balancing area that we're currently kind of building here in the market. This being that balance area right here, where you can see this yellow rectangle. So we looked above it yesterday, but failed to get continuation, failed to continue to break out. What that often causes is a trade down to the opposite end of balance, okay? Now, we got down pretty close to the opposite end yesterday and then found some support. So I was open to the idea that if the overnight market was able to get us back up to the opposite end, that this would have been good enough support down here. But the fact that we just rotated inside of the middle of this balancing area is a sign of uncertainty. It's a sign that the market isn't sure where to go or what to do. So I think we may need to head down and test this balance area low once again before we can bring in the buyers to get back up there and try to break out again. I could be wrong. If we open today and there's strength in the market and we start heading up there, I could definitely get behind the idea of going from the middle of the balancing area to a breakout. But to me, the higher probability is the market pulling back once again, repairing this weak F period low at 47.59 and then testing that balance area low. To me, that seems more likely to happen this morning. We are opening inside the previous day's range, inside the previous day's value area. So before the bell rings here, just a reminder that we're going to be getting chop, likely at least for the first half an hour or more of the day. So if you're taking trades early on in the day, they need to be scalps, very quick trades. Don't fall in love with it because the market can reverse and head right back down or reverse and head right back up very quickly while we are experiencing chop. Okay. So the market is open. Let's look for that chop. But anyway, I was looking at the NASDAQ, and the NASDAQ also looked like it had a balancing area that it was forming. But yesterday, we looked below that balance and succeeded, right? We looked below and we didn't pull back up into the balancing area. So that will often lead to excess as a break out of balance. It will lead to excess to the downside. How far down that excess needs to go, I'm not sure. We got some good support right around this 16,100 level. So that may be as far as they need to take it. If not, it would be a pretty big pullback in the queue because the next major node of cumulative volume is like down here around 15,930s, 15,950s. So, yeah, both markets to me seem like they need a little bit of a pullback. But they don't have to go far. And if they find support, they can turn around and head back towards those highs. Certainly no reason to be overly bearish. And the chop begins. So we got resistance in this node above us here between like 86 and 89. So if the market is able to get above that and come back down and find support, get above this node, come back down and find support, I might be willing to look for long trades. But until then, my assumption is we're just going to push up into there and it's going to cause us to chop back down to here and then vice versa. As far as downside targets go, you got this node of volume right around 69. Could act as support. If that breaks, we're probably heading down to test that balance area low. Down near 60. So 69 breaks, heading to 60. Danielle, 47.79 is POC. Yeah, 47.79.25 is POC, but that doesn't matter. It's too early in the day to worry about where the POC is right now. It's not in control of the market yet. Okay, we got a level up here at 47.7850 with only 41 contracts, and the one just above it with only 50 contracts. It's very likely at some point today to backfill. So once again, the Q looking weaker than the ES, same as yesterday. Already down below yesterday's low. So it might be looking for that larger pullback here. They're in that last bit of support right now, around the 16,100s. If that fails, they'll likely need to head down to the 15,900s. On the tech, and there it is. We backfilled those levels with only 50 contracts. Got them back up to over 600 as the chop continues. Good morning, Cyrus. Good morning, Arthur. MW, good to have you back. David Glass with us. Good morning to you. Jay Trader, Diego, Scooball, TV in the house. Good morning to all of you. Big Ray from Arizona. Good morning. Nor Auto Trader from Norway. Good morning to you. Amazon selling info. Good to see you. Welcome. Robo Futures Trader. Good to have you. Welcome. Nunez, why does market like to repair weak references? It's that conceptual idea of like nature abhors a vacuum. Like the natural world just tends to fix broken things. It tends to fill holes. It tends to, repair things that need repair. It's kind of hard to explain. It's the same thing with gaps. No one's ever been able to explain why gaps fill. But we can see with, consistent tracking of the data that they definitely do almost always fill. Less recently over the last few years, but yeah, I don't know why weak references often repair. They just do. There's also the argument to be made about positioning, right? And who's trading. A lot of times when you create a weak reference, it's a sign that the people who were buying at that particular level were weak hands traders, which just means they're short-term traders. They're not holding their positions overnight. So that's one reason they get revisited. If everybody who bought at, let's say, the weak F period low, once everyone who bought at that level has taken profits, the market can pull back down to that level. So there's something to that, but I don't really know why weak references usually get repaired. They just kind of do. It's one of those things. Scooball, at NQ, we got much bigger balancing area. Yeah, that is traditional of the NQ, that it creates much larger balancing areas than the ES. So it might be that we're just developing a much larger balancing area. But for the moment, the price exploration is to the downside. We are getting excess out of this balance. Balance leads to excess. At the moment, Overlord, good morning to you. Design Knob, good morning. Nicholas, good to see you. Scooball, what do I think of a balancing area on the NQ from 15,700 to 16,600? My computer literally won't let me zoom out that much. So 16,600 up here, and 15,700 down here. Yeah, sure looks like a balancing area. Remember, balance and excess is two concepts that can happen on multiple different time frames. So, for example, on the weekly time frame, this market might be balancing, right? But on the daily, look at all this straight excess. So we got tons of excess that got us from one end of the larger balancing area to the other with intraday excess, right? So, yeah, that looks like balance. Certainly on the weekly, it looks like balance. Look at that. There you go. Stephen, good morning to you. Welcome. Lamus, welcome to you as well. Yes, everyone, please smash that like button. We got 91 people here, 30 likes. Come on, guys, I called the chop. I told you the chop was coming. Give me a thumbs up for the chop call. Mark, good morning to you. Ronald, good to see you. Bow Bow, good morning to you. Bob from Tennessee, good to see you. Welcome. Cotton Dog, referring to the need to repair weak references. It's the trader analog to the uncomfortable urge to pop bubble wrap. To which Donkey replies, "Your hands are weak." So, Donkey, you can resist the bubble wrap? You can just leave it sitting there all day, right in front of your desk, and you have no urge to pop a single bubble? Come on. Overlord, today I'd rather look for rotational setups. Yeah, I mean, while the market is chopping up and down, it might feel rotational. But if they head down there to test that balance area low and they don't find support, they could start trending lower. So just keep that in mind. What do you suggest? Is there more potential than only at the POC, or is that reasonable? Question mark. It's a great question, trading rotation. So, let's just look at the overnight and pretend that's what's going to happen to the market today. Let's say it's just going to grind up and down in that same range right there. Let me expand it out. Obviously, the best trades that you can take, if you can take them, is to go long down here and then hold it all the way to the opposite end and then take profits and go short up here and then vice versa. I mean, those are going to be, although this overnight wouldn't have presented a bunch of good opportunities, those are going to be the most profitable trades, right? Holding from one end of balance all the way to the other. But what I have found, just for myself and my own psychology, is that I just go nuts sitting in trades for too long, waiting for a chance to take profits. So for me, I'd rather take profits quickly and then re-enter the trade. So I'd rather go long in here, take profits at the POC, have it pull back down, re-enter, take profits at the POC again, and then I get profits from here to here and from here to here, rather than just staying in the trade all the way up to here. For me personally, that's just a harder thing to do. So I like to take profits at the POC because it's the first best target. But if you have the strength to stay in those trades all the way to the opposite end, yeah, there's more money to be made doing that. But you got to be patient. Alpha Trader, I use The H22 contract, I see you use the ES hashtag, which is better. They're the same exact thing. The data provider that I use just combines the two contracts. That's what the little hash is for. It's just allowing me to see all the back data in terms of volume and stuff from before the new contract. But as far as the levels, they should be exactly the same for today. Mark, the force must be strong with Donkey. Donkey saying he got short. Thinks we need to do some business now by that balance area low. It's starting to feel that way to me as well, but they are holding the ticks up. So I'll wait to see those ticks break. Danielle, can you say that the POC is like the VWAP, an area of fair market price? That is exactly what I would say. That's the term that Jim Dalton uses for the POC is the fairest price to do business. And it often lines up with the VWAP, particularly on a day that's been rotating all day long. By the end of the day, the VWAP and the POC are usually pretty close. Athletic, do I use leverage? No, just the leverage that's built into futures contracts. Correct, Cotton Dog, on the POC analysis. Although I would just add the regular POC, the time POC, is taking price and time into account, not just time. Tough to put a stop though on your short. Yeah, I mean if you're willing to give it that much space, this node right here is good resistance. So you could put it right above there, but obviously that's accepting a lot of risk. $10. Uh, Lamus, so chart long 1, short 2. What do you think? I'm not sure I understand. Lahab says he's long. Trading Ducky, I still think if this is a balance area, we should revisit the low. We didn't do that yesterday, around 50. Yeah. You're calling the balance area low 50, huh? Yeah, I guess you could see that. Remember what I mentioned yesterday, though. A lot of times the very last dip won't make it to the opposite end of balance. So I still think the higher probability is visiting these levels down here around, 58, 60. But if they can get above this node of resistance, say get above like 88, they can easily get up there and attempt to break out. So it's just too soon to say. Oh, Lamus, is my bias long or short today? It is literally neither. I'm completely neutral. We're right smack dab in the middle of a balancing area. So it could go to either end. There's no way to know which it's going to do. All right, NQ working its way back above its opening price. So we'll look for support now. Does what was resistance around that opening price now become support? If not, more continued chop. PC, NQ trying to go positive. Maybe that blowout employment report is going to take off at 10. Oh, you're right. The NQ is now one-time framing higher. They also pulled value up inside yesterday's value, whereas earlier it was overlapping to lower. Looks like they're testing that 20 moving average on the 15-minute candles as resistance here. So not enough to call it bullish yet, but certainly less bearish. So again, now looking for support in this node of volume above the open between 16,211 and 16,200. Looking for support there for continuation. Back to the ES. Donkey, one-time framing doesn't begin until the initial balance is broken. Okay, brother, I hear you. I got to come up with a different term for this, for when the B period starts moving in a certain direction. Because it does matter. It does matter. Whichever direction the initial balance goes does play into what happens the rest of the day. And that doesn't mean it can't reverse. It doesn't mean it can't print the C period and sell off. Of course it could, but that just happens very rarely. Whereas most of the time, you either get continuation or sideways rotation. Yeah, we'll call it the initial balance direction. So the initial balance direction on the NQ is up, which is less bearish than if it was down. On the ES, it feels like the overnight high and low can be good areas to watch as well. So if we can get above the overnight high and find support there, that's good for continuation, or below the low resistance, good for continuation. Internals looking pretty uninformative here. I would say they're slightly more bullish than bearish, but they're pretty neutral. No real information in those. This market has uncertainty. Doesn't know what it wants to do yet, at least on the ES. All right, so if the NQ is right in that support, right around the opening price. So if this can hold, it can get another push higher. But if not, going down, baby. Can it hold? Going back to thinking about that overnight high, I'm just noticing with the volume here over the last few days, there's a lot of resistance in here. Resistance there, and resistance there. So you got a lot of volume in here acting as resistance, and clearly that's what the market is struggling to push back up into. A period, it literally took one little poke up and then failed down, and it's doing the same thing now in the B period. So if we can break through the resistance, get above that overnight high, then we might turn that into support and be looking for continuation higher from there. But until then, this does seem like resistance above us. And we all know what happens when you can't get through resistance. You got to pull back with price. Train donkey, but when the resistance goes, it explodes. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If it can get above this little node right here, right at the top of that overnight area, come back down and find some support, that is a beautiful long trade to go take a stab at the highs. But it's still acting as resistance, even now. Keep on pushing. Keep poking at it. Harry Pete tick pretty strong. Yeah, I don't hate the way that looks. I don't know if strong is really the word. It's more bullish than bearish, but it's not super strong. Strong would be if it starts to trend. If one candlestick makes higher lows than the other continually, that's when it's strong. But yep, it's bullish. And the Qs are dropping. Well, they couldn't hold that support. So the chop continues. Also looks like a clean bounce off that 20. Simple moving average. Financial sector. Yeah, there's definitely some rollover out of tech happening. So far, pretty low volume for a breakout, but let's see what happens. Bow, bow. That 79.80 area has become a wall. There is a little cliff right there. A little cliff of sellers. $53 likes, 100 people watching the stream. If there's anybody out there that hasn't pushed that thumbs up yet, I invite you to do so now. It's a great way to support the pirate. Thank you so much for those likes. All right, Rocket, good to see you, brother. Have a good rest of your day. All right, well, it's starting to feel a little more bullish. It's starting to feel like it wants to break to the upside. It's too early to make that call, but it's starting. My spidey senses are starting to go off a little bit here. So remember, if we can get above that overnight high, anything above 47.8775, and then come back down and find support. So the market pushes up here and then comes back down, and it can't go any lower. The buyers are stepping in. That will be a good trade for continuation higher. But until that support happens, it could just be another push up and rotation down. So keeping a close eye on that. Also, tail of two markets. ES looks stronger than NQ. What will Force say, FOMC? I mean, I don't think there's anything they're going to say today that should shock anybody. Could be wrong. Certainly been wrong before. Okay, so now I'm looking for support. This is feeling bullish on the ES, not the NQ. So I'm looking for the support. This is what I was talking about before. All these nodes of volume over here on the left. As it now pulls back down into that, does it find support? Another way to describe it is, can we stay above the opening price from here? As long as we can, we'll get continuation to the upside. Got a low level right here, only 125 contracts, 131 at 85.25. That needs to be backfilled. All right, so with the printing of the C period, I am feeling bullish. We just pulled that POC higher, and so far we're finding support. Although I feel like as I'm saying it, we're going to lose it, which is what the market does to me sometimes. But yeah, as long as we can hold these levels, I feel bullish that the market wants to take a push up to test that balance area high. And we'll know for sure if we can get the C period above the B period that we are officially one time framing higher. And we also would have to keep that C period low above the B period low. So taking a step back and just looking at what to think about for the rest of the day. So remember, we're in a balancing area, right? Which is like basically a box that we're stuck in. And as long as we stay stuck inside that box, we just bounce up and down from one end to the other. So we might get up there to the high. We might try to get above it. And we might do what we did here and here again. We might push above and fail and pull back in. Okay. And just like with here, where we push down to the opposite end of balance, and with here where we pushed almost to the opposite end of balance, we could expect to have a big push lower. But if they work their way up to the high of the balancing area, they push above, and then they find support, well, then that's the breakout of balance, where we would look for excess to the upside, and the same thing to the downside. If they push down here, and then they find support, or they look below and fail and pull back up in, we target the opposite end. But if they push below, come back up and find resistance, well, then we look for a short for continuation lower. But as long as they're inside the balancing area, we assume they're just going to keep bouncing from one end to the other. And right now, my guess is that we're bouncing up towards that upper end, but I could be wrong. If we start to pass back below that opening price again, I'm probably wrong. So this is where the bulls need to step it up. Step it up, bulls. What you got? All right, guys. And with that, I shall bid you all farewell. If you're not a member of the Brigade, I shall see you here tomorrow morning. If you are, I'll see you on the private stream, where all the cool kids are hanging out. And you're all welcome to join anytime. Link in the description. Thank you very much.